Hello, this is Jim Bridges, and
This is Tom Schreiner.
and we've got quite a week. We're living through historical times, aren't we, Tom?
Yes, it's big. One big issue that's gone worldwide.
Big issue,
It's
and
really amazing.
the TV set's full of it, the radio's full of it, the papers are full of it,
And the streets are full of it.
and the streets are full of it. I don't know how we're going to cope today, but let's see what we can do.
Okay,
So,
let's roll on.
Eric Lobbecke, the Australian, in a very unusual style for Lobbecke, he's just gone for basics, hasn't he?
Yeah, well, that's, the Black Power movement symbol way back from the 1970s.
And it's
Malcolm X, and it's so appropriate today too.
and it's Trump holding up a selfie of
Doesn't that look so almost pathetic? The Trump sort
But
of
that's Trump's
gesture.
hand holding up a phone of his hand
selfie
holding
of
up a Bible.
Rather, it just lacks anything. It's, Now, this is a strong
Johannes
one.
Leak, the Australian, US race riots.
Now, a white man robbing a black man. This is a protest. So what's he protesting about?
That's right.
And there's chaos going on in the streets, and it's very messy, isn't it?
I like that. I like his style. I hope he keeps that style up, personally.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, this is the one that really got a lot of people going. Mark
Knight, the Herald Sun. It says it all. Even his pig dog doesn't have to say anything.
Yeah, it's so, symbolic.
Look at those cars.
It's just opened up.
Cars falling into the abyss.
The gates of hell. Gates of hell.
That's right.
That's all I can say about it.
Great cartoon. Now, John Spooner, the Australian, American writers. Now, this got a lot of controversy. I wonder, is it because if the bloke putting his neck on liberty, if he's a black man in this picture, but if he was a white man?
Well, like the previous picture, if it had been, it doesn't get as much controversy, but having the African-American doing it to a white American, which is symbolised by the Statue of Liberty, suddenly it becomes offensive. But shouldn't it be just as offensive for a white man with his knee on the Afro-American?
Well, it depends whether you're racist or not, doesn't it?
That's right. And this is what it's all about.
Very powerful cartoon.
Attitudes, people's attitudes.
Yeah, very powerful cartoon.
This is a bit of a mixture, do we see it as entertainment? Because the way the media just keeps portraying it all the time. That's the feeling I get about it. We're inundated.
But I think what Broelman's saying is that Australians really haven't had the racist conversation they need to have with themselves. Most Australians regard themselves as totally non-racist, and yet we've got all this terrible stuff going on with the blacks in jail.
Aborigines, in custody.
And of course, like whenever a black man would go onto the ground in Western Australia, he'd be booed, and yet that's part of the game. So,
Well, that's it. The Collingwood, was it? Who was that player?
Oh, he was from the Sydney Swans.
Yes.
Adam Goods.
Yeah. He lifted up his hanging there.
But I think he's having a go at the complacent Australians, really. David
Bunker
Rowe,
Boy.
the Australian Financial Review. Yeah, bunkering down as the bunker boy.
Yes.
And there he is playing golf with that golf ball that is COVID symbol.
Actually, there was an article in the Conversation about a fake news that went viral on the internet that all the lights had been turned off in the White House.
That's right. Well, they've got photos to prove it.
but that was fake, that they had been dimmed. And in the bunker, Trump had been, hidden in the bunker, but it was protocol by the Secret Service when people have breached the outer gates or fences of the White House.
It's protocol.
Yeah, they have to protect protests. So it wasn't like he elected to go down there.
Okay. Well, and what did Trump do? He just criticised Obama because he thought the place was dirty and no food and not messy.
What's it better it gets renovated?
But then again, they had the photograph of a really confused Obama saying, "What bunker?" And look what his cup is. It's a McDonald's cup. He's going to hit the thing into.
Polystyrene.
So he's mentioning the things that have happened in Australia.
Well, he has got Fox News there. He's got no Twitter reception, but he has got the news. Yeah. Fox News.
Christopher Downs, Hobart Mercury, and he's still bunkering down.
And he said, "I can't tweet."
Mm.
Oh, sad.
And this is Warren Brown of the Daily Telegraph. This is trying to sort of put in one picture all the chaos that's coming out of America, and that I can't breathe that everybody's using for their own purposes.
Well, it's symbolic, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's the last words of was "I can't breathe," and this is what's happening. And I think people are overwhelmed by all this violence and agitation.
Well, some people think it's the beginning of a revolution in America.
Yeah, are we looking at the fall of the Roman Empire?
Yes, that's a good question, Tom.
And
Christian Adams. Now, this is a British cartoon, isn't it?
Yeah, I had to put him in there because of Christo.
Oh, Christo, yeah. Christo died. The artist who wrapped up everything died, and so America's wrapped up and it can't breathe. So there's
yeah, I think it was rather a little symbolic.
Yep. Mark Knight of the Herald Sun, Donald Trump crossing over the white line.
And headed off into the promised land.
Doing a Moses.
Yes, parting the waves of people. And did they use tear gas or not?
Well, according to the people who were there, it was used, but this morning I heard on the news that officially they said they didn't use it. And of course they used pepper spray. But, pepper spray is delivered out of spray cans, isn't it?
Yeah.
But there was, people...
Probably amounts to pretty much the same thing.
Yeah, well, they're both chemicals, but I mean...
and they both sting.
Yeah. David Pope, the Canberra Times, domestic terror. And...
Look what we're making us do.
Yeah, look what you're making us do. And he is the domestic terror.
I think, he's been accused of inciting a lot of the violence and the anger. He's acting like a right-wing radical.
Didn't someone in that American series about the White House actually walk out of the White House and do something similar? Isn't that what he's following?
Yeah.
Isn't that what he's following?
Yes,
I mean, that's a very simple cartoon for David Pope, so it's very unusual for David Pope.
It's very straightforward.
Yeah. Matt Golding, The Age. So they had all these pictures of when the looting starts, the shooting starts. And, of course, they had pictures online of that picture of him holding up the Bible, and right next to him was a picture of Hitler holding up the Bible. And there's so many gags about what he's holding up, it doesn't matter.
And a lot of people said if he only bothered to open the Bible, he would realise what he's doing was wrong.
Yeah, I mean,
but anything for a good selfie.
All the religious heads of, including the head of that church, have criticised him immensely. John
and the wrath of God shall be upon him.
John Shakespeare, the Sydney Morning Herald. And, well, you know, he's criticising, he's getting it from a higher source, isn't he, the criticism?
Yes, the loudest voice of violence and retribution is Trump himself.
Now, this is David Rowe at the Financial Review. Now, David Rowe always sets the scenario as an apocalypse now situation. And this is quite a cartoon because it's called Strange Fruit Selfie. Now, Strange Fruit is a song about hanging Negroes. I think it was written in the 40s, and Nina Simone and a lot of different people sang it. It was banned on radio, banned for years. And
yeah, because it talked about America's racism and the brutality of the hanging tree.
yes,
And when you look at all the writing on the tree says Bush was here.
yes.
And William Barr, the Attorney General.
Who's got a chain around his neck.
And Trump's wanting him to swing him on the swing.
To push him because justice is not pushing him as far as he's concerned enough because he, just not getting the tear gas breeze in my hair. And, of course, the bird's flown out of his cape and it's soaring off at the top.
And there's actually the church in the background too. It's everything that's going on, riots, looting.
Yeah. There's an incredible amount of information in this cartoon. It's
the Twitter bird.
Yeah, soaring the branch that he's actually swinging on.
Yeah.
And, of course, just to even bring up the strange fruit selfie and see where the Bible is that he held up in the previous picture is where it's strapped.
Yeah.
And it's not a golf club he's got in his hand, it's a selfie stick.
Yes.
Oh, what a cartoon. I think we could spend 20 minutes really looking into this.
Yeah, there's so much going on, you know, you'd have to break down each little bit and look at its significance.
And there's the discarded scales of justice hanging from a tree along with handcuffs.
Yeah.
There's there's history in that cartoon. And Sean Leahy did this was this in the Courier Mail or it was just on Facebook?
It was on Instagram.
Oh, Instagram. And of course, this is his drawing of George Floyd, and George Floyd's been drawn on walls all over the world. Apparently, even in the old parts of the wall dividing Germany, they've painted his portrait.
Well, it's amazing that a simple man who's suddenly become, worldwide fame almost.
Yeah. Well,
just through this terrible act of violence against him.
Yeah.
But he's become the symbol of racism in America at the moment.
That's right.
Bend a knee.
And, of course, the way things are going, he may be the symbol of racism for a long time to come.
Yeah.
This is the best of Warren. Warren worked for the Daily Telegraph, and it's called America Eating Itself. I like the crosses as opposed to the stars.
Yes.
And it's all coming unravelled and it looks...
Death and destruction.
Yeah. This is Glenn Lolevra and American Virus. I think this is a wonderful, wonderful cartoon.
See, I wonder too, a lot of the
COVID virus symbol has been turned into an American virus, which is police brutality.
See, I wonder because a lot of the police are ex-military.
Yes.
And, when the military are trained to kill and stuff like that, and policemen normally are trained to police, which is a whole different ball game.
Yeah.
And they get around in military-style vehicles
They've had all sorts of things that they've tried to do to stop all this police brutality, but apparently none of it's worked. And for instance, in Minneapolis, where it all started this time, all the police live in a totally different section of town, so they don't even live in that environment. So, they're virtually out-of-towners.
Yeah, I think America's just got a really big problem. They're going to have to, relook how do they deploy their police and what are their objectives and stuff like this, because you running around in these sort of, military style vehicles, the way they dress.
Yeah, they have tanks. They have tanks in some places. One of the actual solutions I've heard floated was that if they deny the police forces money, they're going to have to do something. That's the only way they're going to stop them, is to
take off the money.
Restrict the money that they get. That's the only thing that seems it's going to might work.
Well, as you say, all these this equipment doesn't come.
It's such an incredible cartoon because it looks like a time bomb.
Yeah,
it's just the whole virus thing.
It's like those old World War II mines.
It works straight away. It works straight away. It's a great cartoon.
Lethal.
I think that one's going to go in the history books.
Yeah.
David Pope of the Canberra Times.
And it's in the spirit of Tiananmen Square.
Yeah.
And Trump is not helping their cause.
No, he's crossing the lines.
Yeah.
And just on the edge of the pitch, you've got all the police. And that's referring to him not helping by taking that photo opportunity.
In one breath, he's criticising China.
Yes.
For his suppression, and yet in another breath, he's going, you see him there saying, you've got to come down hard on these protesters.
Yeah.
Dominate them.
Yeah.
So contradiction.
Yeah.
It's what good for the goose is not good for the gander, type thing.
We know who the goose is, don't we?
The guy with the suntan lotion.
Mm. And is Cathy Wilcox of the Sydney Morning Herald using the same Tiananmen Square metaphor?
Yes, Black Lives Matter.
And it looks like that there's no way known, according to that drawing, that things are going to change.
Well, it's almost like one man up against, the might of the military. Yeah. Well, they almost look like military policemen, don't they?
Yeah. Well, they look like Spartans.
Yeah. What hope is he ever... No wonder they resort to violence. Mm. And I think it's, the perceived threat.
Yeah, people in wheelchairs...
There's been horror stories, of different things. Like there was one...
An old man, we saw an old man in his 70s.
Yeah, pushed over and left to bleed out on the
he was bleeding pavement. From the ear.
Yeah.
And they left him there.
So, the police brutality, they're just... America wants things to change. They've got to take a hard look at themselves.
And speaking of hard look at ourselves, look at their couch that they're watching all this is in the shape of Australia, and they're complaining how horrible it is, how they treat their blacks in America, and of course.
Meanwhile, no one's talking about the Indigenous issues
who are underneath the couch, but the double metaphor of couched in their
the way we treat our Indigenous people.
Yeah, they're couched in their apathy, and that's a good cartoon, Broelman. It's and of course. It's a big deal in Australia because we've had some big demonstrations, and apparently what's the figures, Tom? More people die, blacks die in custody per capita than anywhere else in the world.
But I don't know, there's been 470 odd deaths, and there's only been 102 deaths with the virus.
That's right, but also there has been no convictions.
No.
For police brutality with all those 400 deaths.
Never makes it to the courts. Mm. So I can understand how the Indigenous people feel that there's no real justice.
No.
No one gets reprimanded for it.
Cathy Wilcox of the Sydney Morning Herald. Scott Morrison went on Radio 2GB apparently, and he gave this speech that there's no need to import things happening in other countries here to Australia.
Yeah, he was complaining about, the planned protest marches and things like this. And he thought, because it's gone worldwide, but Australia has as valid a reason to protest about the treatment of, Aboriginal people as the American Afro-Americans.
Yeah, David Gungay at Long Bay Prison Hospital in 2015, and he's saying, I can't breathe, and there's all the police on top of him.
Yeah.
And John Shakespeare, Cinema and Herald, puts it pretty simple, doesn't it?
And I think this has been, I can remember this being an issue from the way back in the
60s, well,
70s.
70s, yeah. As a matter of fact, that cartoon, I think I've seen something similar. It's so basic.
Yeah.
You want to push on?
Yes.
Peter
Now,
Broelman
this got us for a
of the
moment,
Geelong,
didn't it?
yeah, Peter Broelman of the Geelong Advertiser. Now, there's been a lot of demonstrations about Black Lives Matter in Australia, all over Australia, but this is set in Geelong, which is a suburb. Well, it's not a suburb; it's a city, but it's a small city out of second biggest city in.
It's a suburb of Geelong, though.
Yeah, Bell Post Hill, and apparently it has implications because it was a.
Well, the settlers had a bell, and when they saw Aborigines coming around, the bell was sounded as a warning.
That's right.
And they either chased them off or killed them.
And of course the place is called Bell Post Hill. So the people who are saying the white guy has got Black Lives Matter, there's all these implications. It's just a demo, but there's big stuff needs to be changed in this country.
And I think as I say, the local Aboriginal people are saying that they find that name offensive because it keeps alive a time in history when they were treated badly.
And of course, in America, they're taking down the statue of Robert E. Lee. And in England, they pulled down a statue of
some lord who was a slave trader.
That's right. So, I mean, but this is no statue, but this is a name. So, you know,
but it's still
there's a lot of dismantling needs to be going on with the law and people's attitude. And this is an interesting cartoon because it's a very small place. This place in the big picture of Australia. But at the same time, what it's actually referring to, things have to change. It's the small picture with the big picture. Yes, so what have we got here? Matt Gold in The Age, policing. And he's watching, I find this hard to watch in my own backyard.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, the guy said, I find this hard to watch. And then he qualifies it by saying, in my own backyard.
Yeah, because the bottom picture is not America, it's Sydney, where a 14-year-old Aboriginal kid was knocked over.
Yeah, thrown to the ground.
Thrown to the ground by police, and then he ended up in hospital.
So it's just, once again, the treatment of Aboriginals seem to be different to the average white person.
And look at that eye in the top picture. It's just a dot in the middle.
Yeah.
And in the bottom picture, he's looking at the picture and it's, my own backyard. Yeah. And Matt Golding again from The Age, Black Deaths in Custody Protests.
And that's, I think, as much as these protests are happening in America, it's relevant to Australia, to our own issues.
Yeah, our own problem, and that's obviously the law and order kneeling on the sacred symbol of the place of Uluru with Indigenous voice to Parliament written over it.
Yeah, so it's almost like trying to suppress the Indigenous to the call for justice, and. Why not? Why shouldn't it be just treated like the rest of us?
As I said before, of those 400 deaths, not one policeman was
been prosecuted.
Was prosecuted.
No, something terribly wrong there. And this is actually
Matt Golding again in The Age, and here he is doing a dot painting of the Aboriginal flag, and of course.
Bend a knee.
Yeah, this is tough because this can mean a lot of different things to different people. But I mean, some people find this sacrilegious to do this to the flag, the Aboriginal flag, but it's sort of based on reality. That's the situation.
Well, it's like what's happening to the Aboriginal people.
That's
The
right.
way society treats them is, a sacrilege.
Yeah. Powerful image.
Yes.
And Matt Golding, The Age, home builder grants, frenzy but fears and delays. That's right. The Prime Minister was giving a speech
Yeah, and
on
some
the
guy
lawn
trying
to talk about the home building grants.
Yeah.
And the bloke who owned the lawn said, "Get off my lawn." So
I think this is appropriately get off my lawn.
what does Matt Golding do? That's right.
Brilliant. Well, that's it for this week. Big issue it was.
Big issue, yeah. It's a very interesting times we live in, Tom. I wonder what the next week's cartoons. I wonder if if we're going to have a whole similar set of cartoons next week. I don't think this is going to blow over, but do you?
No, I think it's going to go on for a long. I hope whether or not we get some resolution though. It's difficult because I think we've had many times protests about this.
Yeah.
But it always gets bogged down in
state matters.
Yeah,
and all sorts of stuff.
As soon as it goes to Parliament,
yeah,
and they do a white paper on it, and they do this and that, and a lot of talking happens, but nothing really concrete comes about.
Yeah, and also
the
big march in Sydney, which was an illegal march, at the last minute got by the High Court turned it around.
Yeah,
the decision around.
I think it was pretty courageous of protesters to get out there. It just shows you how strongly people are feeling about the issue they would.
Yes. That's right. I mean, I don't think they're being foolish in the sense that they're flouting the health situation. I think this is more important. This becomes more important to people, and also the frustration of being cooped up for months is actually one of the things that's probably also fueling all this stuff, and that's why it's all over the world. People are marching about this racism all over the world.
Yeah, it's like they're not giving a damn about COVID.
Yeah.
It's like, social distance, to hell with that. This is something important, something we need to deal with. Yeah. It's like the environment. The world's got a lot of issues it should be dealing with right now.
That's right.
And social distancing is one of the lesser ones of those issues.
That's right.
Anyway, this for me,
it's goodbye from him, and it's goodbye
from him.
Bye-bye. See you next week.